So you just got an iPhone 15 or 15 Pro, you probably already unboxed it and went through the setup process, but now you might be wondering what to do next. Well, I'm here to help you because in this video, I'm going to cover the first 17 things that you need to do on your iPhone 15 and 15 Pro. These are going to be the first settings you should change, the first features that you should try out, and just everything you need to know to get the most out of your device. And there are some hidden features in here as well, so stay alert. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is check on a setting that is exclusive to the iPhone 15s to make sure your device is actually new. And I know it sounds crazy, but you'd be surprised. So go to settings, go to general, about, and then go all the way down to the bottom and you will see a new section for cycle count. This gives you an actual reading for your battery cycle count. You want to make sure if this is a brand new device that it's on 0, or if you've been using it for a little while, just make sure it is a low number. And then while you're at it, just go into the settings, go to battery, and then to battery health and charging, and make sure this says 100% for the maximum battery capacity. That way you know your device and your battery is actually brand new. And if we go back, you will see up top we do have the battery percentage toggle. So if you want your battery percentage to be turned on, which you could see on the left, you can turn that on right there. Or if you prefer it to be off, which is the default setting, you could just keep that off, and that is what it looks like on the right. Now we also need to understand the change to USB-C. So this is the first port change on the iPhone since 2012. So it's not very common to switch up the port on the bottom of the iPhone. And if you think it's only for charging, you are mistaken because you can do so much more with this USB-C port. So you can plug in SSD drives, you can plug in those little USB-C fans, you could do so much with this. You can charge, your AirPods with this USB-C port in your iPhone. So it's not just for charging. And by the way, there are no restrictions for the cords. So the USB-C cords that you plug in to your iPhone, it's not like if you use a little cheap $1 one from the gas station, it's not going to charge your phone any slower. The cords are all treated equally. Now you also need to know the data transfer speeds for the 15 and 15 Plus compared to the 15 Pro and Pro Max. So for the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, you have USB 2.0 data transfer speeds. So those are the same speeds that you saw with Lightning phones. So if you had a phone with the Lightning port at the bottom, you're not going to see any improvement in speeds despite having a USB-C port. But if you have a 15 Pro or Pro Max, you will have 20 times faster transfer speeds compared to the Lightning port. And that's because you get USB 3.0 speeds. However, that does require a USB 3 cord. The cord that comes inside of the box with the iPhone 15 is a USB 2.0 cord. So you do need to buy an extra cord if you want to take full advantage of those fast transfer speeds. Now, the next thing you need to do is get familiar with the dynamic island. So this year, all models have the dynamic island. It is not just limited to the pros. So you can do a ton with this. So if you go ahead into an application, let's just say music, for example, and I start playing some music, and if we go out of that, you will see up top that we have our dynamic island. And if you tap and hold on that, it will give you a little preview here. It will pop out. Now, if you go back and then swipe to the left, you can see it will hide that application. And if you want to bring it back, just swipe to the right and you can see it pop right back up. And you could also tap on anything that's playing in the dynamic island to open that application as a full screen app. And you can have multiple applications up there in that dynamic island as well. So if I go ahead into my timers right here and I start a timer and we go out of there, you can see that we now have 2 different actions going on up there in that dynamic island. And I can tap and hold on each one and it pops up right there. Now, the next thing you need to do is try out the new precision finding for Find My. So if you share your location with other people, this new feature allows you to locate your friends in crowded areas with precision finding, kind of like what you do with AirTags, or if you lost, your AirPods or something like that, you can now do that with people. And this is awesome. So this is all thanks to the new 2nd generation ultra wideband chip that is inside of all iPhone 15 models. And this allows you to connect at a 3 times longer range than what we could do on the 14s. So if you go to a crowded place like a music festival or, a game or something where there's a lot of people and you have to go to the bathroom and separate from your friend, when you come back, you no longer need to call them and ask them, where are you, or meet me at this spot. You can just find them with this new precision finding feature for Find My Friends. Okay, so we know that the iPhone 15 Pro has a titanium build, and we know that the iPhone 15 has that frosted glass back. Both of those are awesome, and they're pretty durable, especially titanium, but your phone can and will still break. I'm sure you've seen the drop test videos by now. You're not really safe if you don't rock a case on your iPhone 15, and that's where today's sponsor Rhino Shield comes in. Rhino Shield is known, especially here on the channel, for creating super durable and customizable cases with magnets that are twice as strong as Apple's own MagSafe products. They have thousands of designs, including official collabs with the NBA, NASA, Snoopy, Van Gogh, and much more. If you like clear cases, Rhino Shield has basically perfected the clear case over the years, and this year it's 23% thinner while maintaining the same 11-foot drop protection. It also comes with a 5-year warranty, guaranteeing that it will not yellow. But if you're not a fan of the clear case, Rhino Shield also has 2 other case options for the iPhone 15 and 15 Pro, one of which is the solid suit. So this is a classic, and this year it comes in 9 brand new colors, along with improved grip from the more rounded edges that just kind of match the body of the iPhone 15s. And the customizability is really what I love most about this case. The fact that you can swap out the buttons, including the action button cap. You could swap out the different colors. You could buy different colors online along with the ring around the camera. You could just really make the case exactly how you want it. And then of course we have the infamous Mod NX case. And this is an awesome bumper case that is basically 2 cases in one, because you can throw a back plate on the back if you want to with a cool design, or you could just keep it as the grip around the phone and have the back of your phone completely exposed so you can feel it. So this has been improved again for the iPhone 15s by adding this concave texture to enhance the grip, and you do also get that 11-foot drop protection even if you don't have that back plate on the back, so your phone is still protected. So if you have an iPhone 15 or 15 Pro, consider grabbing a Rhino Shield case to protect your investment. And if you already have your case figured out, if you already have one, then you could also check out Rhino Shield for Apple Watch and AirPods cases. They pretty much have everything over there. So if you want to save 10% off of your order, click my link down in the description below and use code BrandonButch at checkout. So the next thing you want to do on your iPhone 15 is to customize the home screen and the lock screen to actually make the phone yours. Make it look different than every other iPhone out there with a tasteful wallpaper like this one right here from my Magma collection, which will be available with the link in the description below. But there are tons of other ones out there that you can choose from, and you also have a lot of different interactive widgets that you can set up on the home screen. And this also comes down to what you do on the lock screen as well. So when you're on the lock screen, tap and hold right here and go to customize, and then go into the lock screen and add in some widgets that you like right there. Go to the clock, change the width of that. You can now change the weight of the font right there. So it can be skinny or it can be fat. So you can change the color of it. You can go to the date up here and you could add another widget up there if you want to. You can just really customize a lot with iOS now. You have different filters that you can do as well. And if you have a portrait of yourself, you can have some really cool effects right here as well. So you have like these duotones where you can change the color. So you can really customize this as well. If you use a picture of a person or a subject, you can see you just have a lot more customizability this year with what you can do on the lock screen. So really, it all just comes down to customizing your device and making it your own. I think that is absolutely one of the very first things you should do on your iPhone 15. Now, the next thing you need to do is use and just know about auto portrait mode. So this is available for all iPhone 15 models, and this allows the camera to detect when there is a person or a pet in frame, and it's going to retain that depth data after the fact, like after you take the photo, and then it can turn it into a portrait shot without ever having to be in portrait mode. Like this shot right here was not shot in portrait mode, but take a look at the bokeh in the background of that. That was done after the fact. How amazing is that? And you could turn portrait mode off if you want to as well to kind of see what it looks like with and without it. I think it looks way better with it in this scenario, but just know that this exists inside of the camera. Now you do need to make sure it's enabled in settings as well. So go to your settings and then go down to the camera section and then go all the way down close to the bottom, and you will see we have an option for portraits and photo mode. Make sure that is turned on if this is something you would like to do. So we just talked about how the port has been changed on the iPhone for the first time in 12 years. Well, next, let's talk about something that has never been changed on an iPhone, and that is the mute switch. The mute switch on the Pro iPhones this year do not have a mute switch anymore. It is now an action button. So you need to configure this action button because it is extremely powerful. So go into the settings here, and first off, just go into the action button settings and just play around with the default toggles to understand how it works. So you're gonna get greeted with this really amazing, really immersive settings screen right here. So the very first option is going to be silent mode, and how the action button works in general, which by the way, I will have a full tutorial on the action button and really building out amazing shortcuts with it. So stay tuned for that. But what it does is basically you have to press and hold on this button to invoke whatever action you select here. So if I tap and hold right now, it's going to go in or out of silent mode depending on what I'm in currently. Now, if I go to focus, I can go ahead to here and choose which focus mode I want to enter when I press and hold on the action button. If I want to open up the camera and I want to go to video, for example, I can tap and hold and it takes me into the camera and loads up video. So just understand where the settings for the action button are and try to build out a shortcut if you would like to, if you really want to get into that. If not, selecting any of these is a fine option as well. It does make it faster to perform certain actions. Now, I cannot move on any further without telling you the next thing you need to do if you have a Pro iPhone 15 is to get rid of this ugly big mute glyph icon up next to the time. You really cannot miss it if you have an iPhone 15 Pro. So to change that, just go into your settings, go to sounds and haptics, and first off, right up here, we do have a master toggle for silent mode. So if you want to turn silent mode on or off, that is the main spot where you want to do that. But underneath of that is where we have the setting to show in status bar or not to show in status bar. So that is on by default. I would recommend to turn that off unless you just always need to be reminded that you're in silent mode. I would recommend most people turn that off. It just looks a lot cleaner up there and it's not as distracting. All right, next up, let's talk about contact poster. So if you go into your phone application here and go to edit, and then right up top in the top left, you will see your person. Just tap on your person right there, and this is where you get a preview of what you're going to look like when you call other people. So if you go to edit right here, you will get the option to customize your contact poster. And again, this is how you are going to be represented to another person when you call them. They're going to see your big old face right here, whatever you set on their phone. So, keep it a little lighthearted. I don't think it needs to be anything super professional, but don't make it an embarrassing picture. So just change that up. You can go in here to create new, and you get the option to choose between a photo, an emoji, a monogram, whatever you want. And so I'll just do photos real quick. And I would recommend clicking on that suggested button right there because it actually gives you a good selection here. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on this one, for example, and you can pinch like this, and you can see you can actually move it all around, and the phone kind of just uses AI to fill in that top part, with a cool little gradient there. So set it up to your liking. I think it looks really cool when your head is kind of like going into the letters right there, if they can a little bit. Now, if you swipe over, you get some really cool effects here. So these are the different backdrops, and you can change the color of these as well, and it automatically matches the dominant color or one of the complementary colors of the photo. So play around with these because I think these look really awesome, especially if you are far enough from a background where it can pull you fully out of that so that the background looks really good. So like this one I think looks awesome, and I can change that background right there, and I think this will look pretty cool when I'm calling somebody. And you could also set a contact poster for another person. So if they either did not set theirs up, or if you just think that you want to put a better picture of them when they call, you can set that up yourself and it will override whatever they have set for themselves. So to do that, just go into the contacts and go to the contact that you want to change and go to edit, and then go to add photo. And from here, you get that same little menu that we just had for creating our own contact poster. So just go into photos or whatever you want to do, and you can go ahead and choose that for them. Now, the next thing you need to do on your iPhone 15 or 15 Pro is set a new ringtone sound. So with iOS 17, there are several new ringtones. So if you go into the sounds and haptic settings and then to ringtone, and if you tap to preview these, you will notice that they are actually pretty good. I've never been a huge fan of iPhone ringtones, but these ones actually sound good in iOS 17. So you can do the same thing for text tones as well. So if you go into text tones, there are all new text tones in here as well. All right, so let's move over to the iPhone 15 here. I feel like I'm not giving the regular 15 enough love in this video, but the next thing I want to talk about, the next thing you need to know is related to the camera. So if you go ahead and open up the camera, there is a massive change here, especially for the regular model this year, the base model, the regular iPhone 15, and that is the fact that photos now default to 24 megapixels. That is the new default image resolution. So if we take a photo real quick, I'm just going to take a random photo right here. We pull this up and then swipe up. You can see indeed we just took a 24 megapixel photo, not a 12 megapixel photo like we had previously. So you could actually change this in the settings too. So it's on by default. I would recommend not changing this, but you can. So if you go into settings, into camera, and then to formats, and then right here under photo capture, we have photo mode, and we have it set to 24 megapixels. You can switch it back to 12, but take a look at the size difference. It is a 1 megabyte difference for double the megapixels. So that is a no-brainer to keep it on 24, and that's why it was on by default. So 24 megapixels is great. You know, that's way better than 12 megapixels. However, we have a 48 megapixel camera on the iPhone 15s now. All iPhone 15s have a 48 megapixel main lens. That means that we are still not using this camera to its full potential. So right under where we just were, we have resolution control. We need to turn this on, and you can see this says to show camera control for capturing maximum resolution up to 48 megapixels. So what that does is if we go back into our camera now, we have this new section up top that says HEIF max. Now, HEIF is basically just a format like JPEG or like PNG. It's just another form of how you take photos. So it's going to be more efficient in terms of sizing while retaining a lot of that detail that you get from like a JPEG or a PNG image. So if you have that turned on, so if the cross is not through that, that means you are taking it in HEIF max format. So if we go ahead and take that photo and then go into it right here and swipe up. So yes, indeed, that was a 48 megapixel shot. You can see the resolution right next to it, along with the size of 4.8 megabytes. So if you compare that to the 2 megabytes of the 24 megapixel shot, that's only around double, a little over double the size, but it's still sub 5 megabytes. That is tiny. Now, if you want that to stick and you don't want it to reset every time you go into the camera, just go back to your camera settings and go to preserve settings, and then go right here where you can see resolution control. You want to make sure this is turned on. That way it remembers what you had selected the previous time and it doesn't reset every time you go in and out of the camera. And by the way, if you have this set to most compatible instead of high efficiency, it's just going to change that up there to JPEG max instead of HEIF max, but it's the same concept. But the iPhone 15 Pros take that to a whole nother level because we have even more features for the iPhone 15 Pros. And you probably have already seen this if you played around with the camera, but if you go into the camera app and you tap on the 1X, you get a 28mm, a 35mm, and the basic 24mm. However, you can set the default for what you want 1X to be every time you press it. So that might be a little bit confusing, so let me explain. Let's go into our settings here, and then let's go down to camera. Go down until you see main camera. So if you go into here, here's where you can either enable or disable the additional 28 and 35mm lenses. So you can turn those off if you don't like them at all. And you could also set your new default lens. So every time you go into the camera app, when you snap a picture in regular 1X mode, do you want that to be at 24mm, 28mm, or 35mm? You can change that. So now if I change it to 35, for example, we go back into here, you can see it defaults to that 35, that 1.5x there. And you can see I can go back to 24 if I press it, but the default is going to be that 35 1.5x. And then also on the Pro Max specifically, you have that 5x lens. This is the Tetraprism lens, and this is amazing. So it's a 5x optical zoom. So if you have a Pro Max, I would highly recommend the next thing you do is just understand how this works. So you can do 5x optically in photo or video, and you could also digitally zoom up to 25x. Now, if you're in video, you can only zoom up to 15x, but when you start zooming in, if you find a subject and you start zooming in, you will get a little preview window up in the top right that shows you that subject, and it kind of makes it easier to follow the subject that you're trying to record. Now, the next thing you need to do on your iPhone 15 is go into your battery settings right here and go to battery health and charging, and then go into charging optimization. And in here, we have a brand new exclusive iPhone 15 feature where you can set your battery to only charge up to 80%. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, it's very simple. If you want to prolong the life of your lithium-ion battery inside your device, if you want to keep your battery health at 100%, this is a very good idea to have enabled. Now, the catch here is that you need to not actually use that 80% throughout the day. If you go down to 10% and you have to charge up again, it kind of defeats the purpose of having this set to 80%. So, optimized battery charging is probably going to be best for most people, but if you don't use your phone a ton, I would highly recommend only having your phone charge up to 80%. And on that same topic, we do also have clean energy charging down here. So you can turn that on or off depending on kind of, what your beliefs are and the whole carbon footprint, reducing your carbon footprint and things like that. Just know that if you do have this enabled, that means that sometimes when the, grid is not clean, your device will simply not charge. So just keep that in mind. If your phone is not charging one day and you can't figure out why, this could be the culprit. So just know that's there, and you can turn that off until tomorrow, for example, if you want to, or you can turn it off indefinitely. The next thing you need to do is configure your display settings, because there are new ones this year. So first off, you probably saw that my device keeps dimming, and that is the most annoying thing on earth. So if you go into settings, display and brightness, and then down here to auto lock, change that from 30 seconds, please. It's just going to annoy the crap out of you, and it's going to be annoying to have your phone always go dark and you have to tap on it. So I would recommend setting this really anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Now we also have raise to wake, which I would recommend turning that off. All that does is it just does this. So if I have my phone down and I raise it up like this, it will automatically turn on the screen and unlock my face. However, there are a lot of false triggers with this, and that could drain battery life, so I like to turn that off. True tone is a big one, so I like to have that on just to adapt the iPhone display to the ambient lighting. So if you turn that off, you're going to see a very blue tint to it, but True Tone kind of makes it warmer, and just like it says, it adapts to the environment. So I think that is a must right there. Now we do also have the brightness. I will get to that in a moment, but here under appearance. So if you want your phone to go into light or dark mode automatically based on the sun, sunrise and sunset, you can have that set right there, and you can have the options to change it, or you can have a custom schedule. Now about that brightness. So if we go into our settings and go to accessibility and then to display and text size, go all the way down to the bottom, and you will see the toggle for auto brightness. So this just depends on what type of user you are. I think for most people, you probably want to have that on just so you don't have to worry about changing it. But I like changing the brightness on my own, so I tend to turn that off. However, I've used it both ways, and I think it's fine either way. So just adjust that to your liking and understand that it is there. Now, right above that, we have another important toggle for reduce white point. And what this does is, it says right below it, it reduces the intensity of bright colors. So if you have your phone all the way down to 0% on the brightness, but it's still not dark enough, you can use reduce white point to lower that even more. So the more you raise this, the darker the phone gets. But you could also have this set to a pretty low number right here, so your phone is not as bright all the time. Now you do also want to customize your control center. So if you go into your settings and go to control center right here, the default is just these four right here: flashlight, timer, calculator, and camera. Pretty useful, but you want to add more to that. You want to customize it to your own. So I would recommend adding in things like screen recording. So it's really easy to press to start screen recording. You can set things like dark mode. If you want to go into dark mode, manually from your control center, you can do that right there. Your Apple TV remote, low power mode. You can add all these really useful control center toggles into that control center, which you swipe down on the top right of the phone to get into. And what's really cool about the iPhone 15 Pros this year is that when you go into the control center toggle right here and you turn on your flashlight, you will notice that you now have a dynamic island little animation up there, a little notification letting you know that the flashlight is on, and you can turn it off from here as well. And by the way, for the iPhone 15 Pros, you can always find that mute switch right here in the control center as well for silent mode. So you don't need to go into the settings every time you want to turn silent mode off. The next thing you want to do is check out the awesome new Apple Music UI. So take a look at this animated cover art here on the Now Playing screen. That looks awesome. But that's not even the best feature about Apple Music here with iOS 17 on your iPhone 15. So if you go into settings and then go to music and then go down to crossfade, make sure to turn that on. That is off by default, and you want to set your crossfade anywhere from 1 second to 12 seconds. And if you don't know what crossfade is, basically it's just when the next song starts playing before the previous song fully ends, and it kind of fades into one another. It kind of creates your own personal remix every single time you switch songs in a playlist. Now you also need to set up Face ID if you did not do so so during the initial setup process. So in settings, you have a Face ID and passcode section right here, and you can see that you have all these options right here. But if you did not do this during the initial setup, you will have to go to set up Face ID right here. And when you do that, it will show you how to set up Face ID. It's very simple. All you do is just put your face in the frame and you go around in a circle. So Control Center, this is the one that worries me sometimes, because if you have this on, that means somebody could just go into your phone, like if you're not there and your phone is still locked, they could just go into your Control Center. They could put your device into airplane mode. They can turn your Wi-Fi off. They can mess with your volume, all that stuff. Sometimes you may not want that. If you're around people you may not trust, or whatever the situation may be, you may not want that to be there. So you can go ahead and disable that. That way it needs your Face ID, your authentication, before the Control Center can be pulled down. So now when we go into here, you can see I cannot swipe down to get into the Control Center, but if I put my face in, you can see I can still do so right there from the lock screen. So just configure those settings to your liking. I think that is something that's pretty important that gets overlooked by a lot of people. The next thing you need to do is try out standby mode. So this is an awesome feature that is included in iOS 17, and all you need to do is be charging your device and have it in landscape mode and have it locked, and you get this really awesome customizable lock screen. And I talk a lot about this in my iOS 17 videos, but this is a really cool mode that you definitely need to know exists and try it out. And then the final thing you need to do with the iPhone 15 is understand that your 5G speeds have been improved this year with an upgraded modem. However, that doesn't mean you should have your 5G settings to always on. So to change this, go into your settings, go to cellular, go into your primary phone number right here, and here's where you find voice and data. So this is set to 5G auto by default, and I think that you should keep it that way. I would recommend not turning on 5G all the time, because still 5G is not super prominent everywhere, and it's just going to drain battery trying to look for that 5G tower. And then one other bonus thing I'll throw in here, just because we're talking about the phone and data, is live voicemail. So this is on by default, and I think it's a great feature, but if you don't like live voicemail, which is where you can see what the other person is saying while they're leaving the voicemail in real time, and you get the option to pick up while they're still on the line, leaving that voicemail. If you don't like that, you can turn that off right here inside of settings, phone, and then under live voicemail. So those are the first things you should do after getting your brand new iPhone 15 or iPhone 15 Pro. So hope this video helped you out. If it did, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for more iPhone 15 and 15 Pro coverage. But anyways, guys, enjoy the video, enjoy your 10% off with Rhino Shield, and I will see you guys very soon.